Hey there, it's Danielle Burnock from DanielleBurnock.com, that lady on the internet who loves you, connecting you to the love that heals so you can love yourself from survive to thrive. I heard a story recently. It got me thinking, and I want to share it with you. We can learn so much from this story. It's a greenhouse story. It's a greenhouse story from a gentleman named Jason Brown. Jason Brown used to be in the NFL. He left the NFL because he felt called by God to start a firm. I'm doing a devotional that he wrote in my YouVersion app with a friend of mine. And he shared this story about his greenhouse. And it really isn't about the greenhouse itself. It's about the story, and it's about our hearts. Because a lot that's been happening, conversations I've been having with people, this line keeps coming up that the heart of the matter is the heart of the matter. Our heart, what's going on in our heart, is the heart of the matter. Our circumstances, they matter. It's not that they don't matter. You know, our choices, our behavior, our thoughts, our feelings, they matter, but the heart of the matter is what's going on in our heart. And see, Jason left the NFL. He thought that he would never have any money problems ever again because, he made like $1 gazillion probably. I don't know. Not real familiar. I'm just doing this one devotional that he did called Centered. And it's talking about relying on God, trusting God, believing Him and leaning into Him. And it's really about the heart of that, because we can think we're doing that, but we're really going through the motions. And sometimes we really find out what is truly in our heart when we're under pressure. Jesus said that, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. When we're being squished, what's in us comes out. You squish orange, you get orange juice. You don't get coffee, right? So when we get under pressure, we find out what's really going on in our heart. Where do we really trust? And see, this man, Jason Brown, he had all this money being in the NFL, but then he lost it through, I don't know how, he doesn't go into detail, through things he could not control. And he's starting this farm, and he's running into all these financial difficulties because he lost all that money. And he thought that he'd never have money issues ever again. But now he's going to have to, pray and trust God and ask for help to do what God told him to do. And one of the things he needed to do is he needed to get a greenhouse. I don't know a whole lot about greenhouses except for you put plants in them and they stay warm in the winter when it's, it keeps it warm in there. I'm very limited information about that. But from what he shared, I guess greenhouses are really expensive. All they had was $2,000 in their account. And the cheapest greenhouse was $20,000. $2,000 is nowhere near $20,000. So he couldn't just go and get his greenhouse. When he played NFL, he could just go and do whatever he wanted to do. And, he could think he's trusting God, and, he probably was a bunch of times. But we can tend to lean into our own strength, our own knowledge, our own bank account, our own history, and we're trusting in ourselves, and we might not realize it until that thing that we generally trust about ourselves, whether it's our smarts or our bank account or, whatever fill in the blank that is. Whenever that thing is missing, then what are we left with? Where are we going to look for help? He looked to God for help. Okay, you wanted me to start this farm. I need a greenhouse. Hello, I have $2,000, not even enough. What are we going to do? And out of the blue, he is given this greenhouse from a gentleman whose wife wants him to get rid of it. And it's a greenhouse that is worth $100,000. $100,000. It had all these features to it that Jason would have liked but would have never paid for because he was leaning on his own, I have this much money, and if he had $20K, he would have paid for $20K. He would have got the least. He would have paid for the least instead of the much better. God wanted him to have the much better. And when we lean into God, with our heart, with our heart of hearts, he gives us much better. We stumble upon that, and he blows us away with what the Bible calls exceeding abundantly above all we could ask or imagine, and it blows us away. And we don't understand, but then Jesus says these words to his disciple when he was here on the earth. And he said, if you know how to give good gifts to your kids, if they asked for, ice cream, would you give them liver? No, that's not, I'm rewording it. But it's the same story, if they, because we don't talk in fishes and stones and stuff in our culture today. But I can understand if my kid asked me for ice cream, I'm not going to say, here, have some liver. No, I would want to give them ice cream. I would want to give them what they want. I would want to bless them. I love my kids. God is so much bigger, better, and awesomer than us as humans, because we have all our imperfections and he's perfect. And he wants to give us things that are exceeding abundantly. He wants to give us things we need and then some. And he did this with King David in the Old Testament. When King David, he got himself in trouble because he leaned on himself. God had given him so many things. He'd become king and had a palace and money and all kinds of stuff. But then he takes some other guy's wife and kills the husband. Awful. What does God say to him? I gave you this, and I gave you this, and I gave you this. And he gives him the laundry list of all the stuff he gave him. He said, and if that was not enough, I would have given you so much more. Why did you have to go do this? And see, the whole point of this is the heart of the matter is the heart of the matter. It's not about Bathsheba and her former husband Uriah so much as, and they matter. That whole thing matters. But it matters what was going on in David's heart that made him do that. And Jason Brown, he just looked to God and said, you want me to do this? I need your help. And God showed up. He's done that so many times. He did it again with Jason. He needed 2 roosters. He couldn't find roosters. He goes into town and finds 2 roosters wandering next to the road. Who does that? You don't find roosters just wandering next to the road. Well, you do when God provides. Someone shared with me a story today about how they needed a basketball net. And they were looking for one and reaching for a way to do that, and they could not do that. And God provided one that was like brand new and this gorgeous basketball net. Because when we reach for our heart, with all our heart, and we just really, like a little kid, trust, God shows up big time. He's done that for me so many times. I remember in my book, Emerging with Wings, writing while I was on my road trip, not following God at all, but he was drawing me to him. I was mad at him, but not. And you'd have to read the book to get all the details. But in my wanderings and in my pain and trauma woundings, because that was a big part of why I had my issues with God, I was just daring to reach for a little bit of help, like just kind of like lifting my eyes, like would you maybe help me? Maybe would you kind of? But I did it with my heart. And it wasn't a gimme attitude. It wasn't an entitlement attitude. It wasn't a you owe this to me, because God gives us promises and we can stand on those. And we can say, you said this, but that's different from you owe me this. God doesn't owe us anything, but God is true to his word, and God is true to his heart, and his heart is for you. I share this story about the greenhouse. I catch myself using the term, making up a term like it's a thing, that I was greenhoused. God greenhoused me. I needed this thing, and he gave me this thing that was so much better. I needed this, and he gave me this thing that was so much better. So when I think of being greenhoused, that's what I think of. I needed this, and God gave me so much better than what I even asked for. And when we do that with our heart, he does that because he loves you. He loves me, and he wants to give us things to bless us and help us and teach us and to cause us to grow. And if you just need to grow just to know him or to be able to have better relationships in your life, he wants to help you with that. He healed me of trauma, and he did it little by little faithfully in the middle of my messiness, because it was a messy, messy journey. You want to know the messy journey? Get my book, Emerging with Wings. But I just challenge you, if you need help with anything, to just lift your eyes, close your eyes, and lift your head, and in your heart, lift your heart and say, God, I need help. I need help with whatever it is. If you need roosters, you need a basketball net, you need a greenhouse, you need to pay your rent, you need to get out from under a bad marriage because there's domestic abuse, whatever it is, it isn't too much for God, because he loves you and I love you. Until next time, mwah. See you.